Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Evan Katz on the line, and he's CEO over at Benoni Capital, Inc. Evan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, and greetings from New York City, New York.
All right. Great stuff there. So definitely want to get into Benoni Capital and the work that you're doing there, but let's start off with your mission. So at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories. That's what we do. That's our mission. Evan, what mission matters to you?
Well, by far, most important mission, that is, to be a great husband and father to my 3-year-old daughter. So that is the number one most important mission. Yes, we're teaching her discounted cash flow and pivot tables.
I love it. Come on, at the age of 3, get them.
100%. The joke in the family is that my wife is a senior executive director at a Fortune 100 global investment bank and asset management firm. So the joke is we were going to send in a job application and resume for our 3-year-old daughter to this firm's HR department and come up with a resume and see if she can get a job in a couple of years doing who knows what.
Hey, greeting. It's a greeter. It's a job. I love it. This is in. Get that Roth or something set up, and she's on her way already at 3 years old. I love it. I want to go back in your career a bit here, Evan. Like, what inspired you to pursue a career in finance? Before we get in, I want to talk more about Benoni Capital, but I want to start a little bit earlier. What inspired you to pursue a career in finance and law?
Sure. Well, I guess before I forget, the most important mission we do is to try to really blend on the professional side, doing well and doing good. We'll get into it, but I've been one of the leaders of the hedge fund and alternative investment industry for many years. And I guess the mission to me, aside from being successful and so forth, I guess it's always been twofold. First, we'll get into this a bit later perhaps, as part of it has been to somewhat democratize hedge funds and alternative investments. As you and many of your listeners know, hedge funds, private equity, real estate, and venture capital largely has been in the bailiwick of institutional investors like endowments, foundations, and pensions pretty much exclusively for decades. We are doing our best to not only try to help them make great returns and a lot of money, nothing wrong with that, but also to help bring some of the opportunities to make great returns, a lot of money to high net worth families, to retail people to some degree as best as we can. And the other thing we also try to do at Benoni Capital is to give back to the next generation. I think I've now spoken at roughly about a dozen leading business schools and MBA programs. I mean, folks, you and your listeners would know Harvard, Wharton, USC, NYU, Columbia. So we try to both help people make great returns in alternatives and also to help train the next generation of leaders at the same time. To answer your question, how I got into this, I was a little kid, always wanted to be a lawyer. I'm not sure how I knew that, but I was 3, 4, 5, and 6, always wanted to be a lawyer. But then I ended up going to Wharton and discovered the world of finance, and it was an incredible place, a phenomenal institution. I spoke there just a couple of months ago, went back virtually on Zoom and spoke there again to their hedge fund group. And always wanted to pursue a career in finance. It was sort of like law and finance were kind of head-to-head both. Ended up going to Harvard Law School, actually, coincidentally, same class as Michelle Obama. And ended up kind of splitting the difference. I practiced law for a bit, was one of the world's top intellectual property lawyers, patents, trademarks, copyrights. But after a stint in IP law, have been actually on the alternative investment side for the past 2 decades or so. So always wanted to be a lawyer as a kid. I got the law degree. Actually, Anthony Scaramucci and I both went to Harvard Law and don't practice law anymore. I went into hedge funds, so it must be the thing to do. But I've been on Wall Street now for about 2 decades doing alternative and venture capital.
I know that you're referred over by Evan, so I got to work this question in. The name Benoni, where'd that come from?
Sure. Just so listeners know, there's 2 Evans. I am Evan Katz, CEO of Benoni Capital. The other Evan is a chess master, mutual colleague of ours.
And he's been on the show before. I was waiting for the chess part. People should get it. Go ahead, though. I love it.
Fair enough. It's not on my CV. A little bit of it is on the Benoni Capital chess.com website. But I've been a chess aficionado since I was about 7 or 8 years old. I was captain of the chess team in high school, commissioner of the Nassau County Chess League, Scholastic Chess League, where I grew up. I used to actually write a column for Chess Life, our nation's chess magazine, and it has the largest circulation, I believe, of any chess magazine in the world. So in addition to being on the math team, I was also on the chess team, double geek, although I was on the soccer team, so that balance it out a little bit. So long story short, as we say in the hedge fund business, long story short, I've gotten to know a lot of chess players over the years. If people go to the BenoniCapital.com website, they can see pictures of me with, I think, 3 former world chess champions, Magnus Carlsen, Garry Kasparov, and Anatoly Karpov. So I've always been a bit of a chess geek as well as a finance and hedge fund wonk. And there's actually a couple of us in the hedge fund space. There's a couple of us. Boaz Weinstein of Saba Capital is a famous chess guy, and I've been to some events with him. And once he played Garry Kasparov's speed chess at one of these events. So there's a whole bunch of chess and backgammon and gaming people in the hedge fund world. It's a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking X moves ahead, balancing risk and return. So there's a lot of similarities between chess and backgammon and hedge funds, when done at the highest level. But to answer your question, where did Benoni Capital come from? There's actually 3 aspects of Benoni. The first 2 are not where we got it from. One is it is actually a biblical name, Benoni. You can Google the biblical name. The second is there's actually I think it's a small town in South Africa called Benoni. That is not where we got it from. We actually got it from the chess world. The Benoni opening is a extremely well-known chess opening. Listeners can ask their chess-playing friends or family and impress them that they know about the Benoni chess opening. A small fun fact for you and your listeners, it is the opening with which Bobby Fischer, for the very first time, beat Boris Spassky in game number 3 of their World Championship match in Reykjavik, Iceland. Fischer and Spassky had played 5 times before. Fischer had drawn 3 games and lost 2. And the first time he ever beat Spassky was with the Benoni at Game 3 in Reykjavik, Iceland. So a tip of the hat to that. But that's where the name Benoni Capital comes from. It is actually a chess reference because I'm a big chess geek.
Had to work that in for the other Evans. So good stuff there. Couldn't let you off without that one. And I want to go a little bit further into Benoni. So talk a little bit more about how you evaluate which funds that you want to work with and which funds work.
Sure. Well, what we basically do at Benoni Capital is typically to help alternative investment funds, hedge funds, private equity funds, real estate funds, venture capital funds, shall we say in American baseball, kind of get from first base to home. Well, what does that mean? It's different for everyone, but basically the gist is this. Let's say there's a great hedge fund, private equity fund, real estate fund, or venture capital fund that's got some talent, a couple of guys, a couple of women. They know how to execute trades and to make money in their respective space, but they need help getting to the next level. They need more investors. They need more foundations, endowments, pensions. They need greater assets. Maybe they need help building out infrastructure. Maybe there's some regulatory, compliance help, what have you. What I at Benoni Capital do is to help funds like that get from first or second base to home. So, for example, one of our flagship funds is one of the world's top performing long-short funds. I met the guys a while ago. They had over an 80%, that's 80% per year net return to investors. 2 of the best investors and traders I'd ever met. And this is not just for 1 year. This is over 80% a year, over 8 years net of fees compounded. So we got to know each other. Benoni has a significant equity stake in the fund's general partner and investment manager. And now we're taking them to the next level, introducing them to roughly the 1,000 or so people I know at endowments, foundations, pensions, fund of funds, high net worth families, family offices, folks like that. And so basically helping them get from first or second base to home, which obviously is a win-win for them. It's a win-win for myself and Benoni Capital. And most importantly, and I mean most importantly, it's a win for the investors because this is to my knowledge, one of the best performing funds on planet Earth. I mean, north of 80% a year compounded for 8 years. And if you have any hedge fund listeners, they'll appreciate that we have a Sharpe ratio of about 2 and a Sortino ratio of about 3. And if listeners do not know what those are, they can Google them.
And so I find your fundraising approach interesting. How do you feel that this is different? Because it seems interesting, the relationship side of what you're doing.
Sure. Fundraising, and I get this question a lot, I think it's part art, part science. It's a little bit of both. You could also say part left brain, part right brain. And I do it very differently from most people. A lot of folks kind of email blast and what's the expression? Spray and pray and email blast and hope a lot of it sticks against the wall. That's not what I do. I've been in finance for about 2 decades. The first thing I do is I learn the strategy and the team a lot better than most fundraisers do. A lot of fundraisers, half the questions that investors ask them, the fundraiser has to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. I'll ask the portfolio manager. That's not me. I basically first learn the team. Number one, if you know the investors better, which I do. I know most of them 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You do a lot better at capital raising. Number two, if you know the strategy better, what you're selling, you'll do a lot better. And three, if you cherry pick or narrow down the investors who you're going to be calling, you'll do a lot better. So not every strategy is perfect for every investor. So, I would say anyone looking to get into the business or sales in general, know your product, number one, customers, number two, and spend 80% of your time focused on the customers who are the most likely to buy your product in the first place. And that has, paid off quite well for myself, for funds, and for investors that we know.
I want to switch focus here slightly because I think this definitely, I just kind of see how all this relates to each other. So, you've obviously been in the business for a long time. You're obviously very passionate about it, and it's a big piece of your mission. And so it doesn't surprise me that you've been elected multiple times as director of the Hedge Fund Association. And talk a little bit more maybe just about the HFA in general to educate people on that first, and then talk a little bit more about, your role and what you learned from it.
Sure. Well, not surprisingly, like any industry, there is what I lovingly call the alphabet soup of associations and organizations in the hedge funds, fund space. Yes. I think I once put together a list of the different ones, and there's probably
well north of a dozen. Surprise me that you did that, by the way, Evan, the way your mind works. That does not surprise me. Continue, please.
No,
I think it's a good thing, by the way. Go ahead.
In fact, I once actually did a count. I think I've been to over 1,000 events by associations in the field and investors and conferences. So the Hedge Fund Association, or the HFA, is a fabulous organization that helps bring together sort of, I guess, the three-legged stool of the hedge fund industry. Obviously, a bunch of great managers, large, medium, and small. Also, investors who allocate to hedge funds, also large, medium, and small. And in addition, all these so-called service providers, because like any other industry, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of hedge fund lawyers, hedge fund accountants, hedge fund administrators, hedge fund prime brokers, and other people, and they do that. There's also AIMA, the Alternative Investment Management Association. They're one of the major players. The MFA, the Managed Funds Association, the Connecticut Hedge Fund Association. There's a Texas and California Alternative Investment Associations. So, what I say to a lot of young graduates and young MBAs and young professionals in the field is, sometimes people ask me, how did I get to know roughly 1,000 endowments, foundations, fund of funds, and family offices? And I said, you can bet your you-know-what, it was not from sitting in the office and sitting at a desk. I got to know, give or take, about 1,000 large, medium, and small allocators to alternatives by going to 1,000 industry events over 20 years in the business and effectively networking. And we go through a whole bunch of this. So, for young people, whatever field you're in, hedge funds, doesn't matter, whatever field you're in, get active in the associations. I'm a former recovering IP lawyer. I was very active in those organizations. Get out, network, go to the events, speak. I think I've now spoken at several dozen industry and other events at this point, publish white papers. As a matter of fact, literally good timing, Adam. Just this week, I guess yesterday, we published the annual edition of the Benoni Capital PowerPoint guide, how to raise capital from institutional investors and family offices for alternative investment funds. And on the BenoniCapital.com website, and I think down halfway on the first page in a big green box, people can download it and read it. And it's now, I think we're up to, it used to be how to raise money for alternative funds from A to Z. We actually blew through Z a couple of years ago. Right now, I think it's up to triple C, which I think is 55 tips, tricks, and best practices. And that's the kind of thought leadership that just helps any young or other professional, be successful in an industry. I think right now, I'm under the impression, I've been told by people, I think it's the most downloaded PowerPoint ever in the alternatives field regarding how to raise capital from investors. And not only has it helped me and my firm do fundraising on a large scale basis, but I've gotten calls and emails from a lot of people who said, yeah, your guide, we knew some of these things, but we got 10 tips we had no idea, helped us raise a ton of money. And of course, my joke is, do I get a piece of it? But
I know, where's my cut? Where's my fee at, man?
Yeah, we don't charge. We probably should get some kind of commission for every person who raises another $1 billion
karma. It's okay. Karma's coming back to us.
So it's definitely a good idea to, like I said, get out there, go to conferences, network effectively, publish white papers, get elected to industry organizations. I mean, after you know what you're doing. I mean, you're the first thing, obviously, someone graduates with their MBA. Do none of this for the first 5 years. Just learn what you're doing. Go to a major firm. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse. One of the major shops. Learn everything you possibly can. Blackstone, one of these places, and then after 5 or 6 years, then start trying to carve your way in the world and do the things you and I have spoken about.
Wonderful. Evan, first off, this has been great having you on the show today, catching up, learning more about Benoni Capital and the work you're doing there. Also, you're working really in the community as an advocate in the hedge fund space in general, and really a connector of sorts, and then going through the love for chess and where Evan Rabin, definitely appreciate him introducing you to the show as well, and he's a long-time guest on the show, so thank you for connecting. But that being said, Evan, if somebody wants to connect or learn more about your work or follow your journey, how do they do that?
Sure, fair enough. Probably, I guess, maybe just a couple of stops. One stop, feel free to obviously look up Evan Katz, Benoni Capital on LinkedIn. Pretty much everybody has that nowadays. Second way, you can look at the BenoniCapital.com website. And no big secret, I think it is on there. My email address is the usual format, first initial E like Evan, last name Katz, K-A-T-Z, at BenoniCapital.com. And I get hundreds of emails per week. I do reply to all of them, but if I do not do so within the first 24 hours, trust me, I'll probably get back to people in the 24 hours after that. And also, too, if anyone's interested in our flagship long-short hedge fund, the one with the plus 80% a year returns, feel free to email me about that as well. But also, more importantly, if I can help anybody with anything, if it takes me 15 minutes, I do it for free. If it takes me half an hour, I do it for free. If it takes me 30 or 100 hours, that I charge for. But I am pretty proud of the fact I've gotten, right now, roughly about 25 people jobs and about 8 people married. So if I can do pretty much anything for anybody, who's looking for anything I can help with for 15 minutes, half an hour, we don't charge, 25, 50, 100, 200 hours we charge for. And obviously we're happy to do that. And if anyone's interested in our top performing hedge fund, of course, shoot me an email. I can get you some documents about that. It's been a multiple award-winning fund. I think we've won 5, 6, 7 awards for being a top performing fund. But anything else we can help with, we're more than happy to help you, to help you and your listeners. It's our absolute pleasure.
That's wonderful. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over and connect with Evan. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Evan, it has really been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and it was great to be here, and thanks again. My pleasure.